Okay, guys, I've got a lot of messages from students asking to make a term 5 video, so I'm going to try and make this pretty quick because I also need to study today. So my term 5 talk, so I'm Julie. My little YouTube name is HyperMed. It stands for High Yield Personalized Review, if anyone was wondering. All right, let's get to it. So general advice, like I always say, take this with a grain of salt because what worked for me might not work for you. And that goes with anybody's advice. Just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So term 5 is pretty much a review term. So I'd say 90% of this material you should have already seen. For me, with the exception of dermatology, from my class, we were never taught that in any term. We only had that on the last BSCE book. So that was something that we had to learn fresh. Use this term to understand your physiology and your pathology. So I'm a big person that hates memorizing. You guys should really try as best you can to stop memorizing things and to try to understand things. Like the shocks, for example. You should not be memorizing that chart in first aid for shock. Just understand the physiology to that, and everything will be so much more simple. Start with physical and mental health routine now. Why I say that is because I did a terrible job of that during, I would say, terms, basically the whole time, I would say, until I got off the island. When I got off the island, I started exercising pretty much 3 to 5 times a week with my older sister, drank water, which I did not do well on the island. I actually passed out twice on the island from not drinking enough water. So this is something I really stress because actually the 8 weeks that I was in dedicated and I really took that seriously. I mean, I felt like I had so much brain fog before, and honestly, it just all went away. And I think I was in the best physical and mental shape of my life when I got to taking STEP. Sorry, I don't know what's happening with the screen, so give me 1 second. All right, well, let's just go through it like this quick. Yeah, so please take the mental and physical health seriously. Like I said, you'll be so surprised at how beneficial it actually is. So study for your current exam and review other materials. So one thing I'll talk about a little later, kind of how I approach this term too, is every day I would try to do 20 random. It ended up being maybe like 10 to 20. Usually at night when I was in bed or when I was sitting outside, just kind of relaxing, I would put past tests on my phone because I think they have a pretty good app that was great with my phone. And I would just do 20 random, all topics. And I would do that every day. It's just a review on all topics just to keep me fresh. So exam 1, for me, this was pharm, multi-system with some CNS pathology. Pretty much did the same thing I had done previous terms for this exam. So I pre-read all lectures. This I did about 15, 30 minutes. Usually I did it at night, the night before. I highlight some things, but mainly this is just to get an idea of what the lecture is going to be about. This isn't to understand anything. This isn't to do any of that. It's really just to give me an idea of what I'm going to be seeing and what I'm going to be hearing. So I'm not like, oh, what are we learning today? When I get to lectures, I highlight, I add my notes. You can do this either way. Like I said, I've done it both ways. And I had one of my good buddies, he literally just listened to lectures while we were in lecture because he could do it faster. I've done it that way. I've also just listened. It depends what your schedule is. If you're the first group, that's really hard because you don't have the lectures recorded yet. If you're in the second group, sometimes that's nice because then you can get more stuff done while you're actually in lecture. Post read, I usually did this the same day. Most of the time it ended up being later in the day, but if I have time, otherwise it will be the next morning. It's usually like the first thing I do either before class or just after class if I'm really running behind. This is where I read over everything. I'm making sure I understand like drug mechanisms. I'm understanding like the pathology to things. Why is that important? And I'm kind of making my guesses at what SGU will test me on. What is the highest yield information from this slide? Weekend. So for this first exam, it's super duper heavy farm. I mean, like 500 drugs plus, I would say it's a lot. So on weekends with my friends, what we did is we went to Upper Belford. We would whiteboard out every drug for that week with the mechanism, with what the uses were, contraindications, pretty much everything that we could get using lecture slides. And then I would kind of reference Amboss a little bit just to make sure we understood what we were writing down. So we did that. And then I took pictures of those whiteboards. And instead of just reviewing those whiteboards, I rewrote every single thing that we wrote down, and I put them into my own format in my quick notes. So if you listen to my other talks before, you know that I make my quick notes. These are for me only. They're in my words. They're how I like to write things. And that's honestly what I think you guys should do. You should be making things for you, how you like to learn it. If you like squiggly lines, if you like highlights, if you like different colors, something that helps you remember it because you made it. Okay. I think that's super important. People take that for granted. Everybody wants to do Anki, Anki, Anki. And while Anki is great for farm, it really isn't good for understanding physiology, for understanding different pathologies, because it's just for rote memorization. It's not for an understanding. And people can say, oh, well, the new, the Amboss app now, I can highlight the word if it's underlined and I can read about it. That's true. But again, you're reading someone else's words. Whatever I write down in my quick notes, I have made it for me to understand. And it's way, way fast. I mean, it takes forever to make. Definitely. I agree. And that's what turns people off. But as soon as I make it and I review it, I mean, it's stuck with me way more than say doing Anki or reading someone else's notes. As always, I did all the IMCQs twice. This is something I strongly believe in because SGU exams specifically will take the highest yield things. They're very similar to IMCQs. And again, make sure you know why the other options are wrong, because sometimes SGU will just make the question just based on one of the other answer options. So if you've already done that, honestly, you've already taken the exam. Okay, this is an example of my quick notes. So these will all be, from lectures that we made onto whiteboards, at least for the farm part anyway, that I made into my quick notes. So it looks like that. The multi-systems and CNS infections. So that would be some of the, the multi-infection type stuff. So that'll be like HIV. I think we did, I can't even think. I think malaria, dengue virus, all those kinds of things were in the multi-system. And I made notes with pictures, from lecture slides that I wanted to pop in there for good charts, similar to how I always do it. The pathology, this was just CNS pass. So I think it was, just kind of the basics. Brain tumors was a big one. Definitely know your brain tumors, the markers, what you're looking for, where they occur. Is it supratentorial, infratentorial? Which one is associated with adults? Which one's associated with kids? If I said one looks like motor oil, what's popping into your mind? What brain tumor is that? So just a quick little spiel on this. I've thought a lot about giving these out to students. I've actually had so many people ask me for them, and I am still undecided. I might, but my instinct is saying that I should do these as exam reviews or like weekly reviews. So if someone wants to comment on this video, send me a Facebook message what your actual thoughts are. Because then you would be writing these in your own notes instead of just reading what I did. Okay. So my mind is leaning more towards not giving these out and just doing free exam reviews. I'm never going to charge anyone, to come to an exam review. I think it's ridiculous. I think if you're going to pay me is to take $30 a person and ask 100 people to come, that's absolutely insane. That's just putting more stress on students who are already stressed in general, and I'm not about that. So, if you want to donate $5 to me and give me a coffee so I can do the exam reviews and actually stay awake for them, that would be great. If not, honestly, keep your money. It's not a big deal. BSE 1, 2, and 3. So everybody does these differently. I know people who solely looked at lecture slides and did very well. Me, I did not use lecture slides at all, mainly because I had done so well in previous terms that I knew I could use this more as my, pre-dedicated. I would say I wasn't studying 10, 12 hours a day. To be quite honest, I've never done that. My entire time in SGU or in dedicated, I never studied, I think the most I've ever studied was 10 hours. And to be quite honest, you shouldn't be studying more than that. 8 hours is plenty. This is a job. You also have to have like time to enjoy your life. Otherwise, it's just gonna burn you out. So remember that there's kind of a cost to overstudying versus, you're not getting much benefit after a certain point. So I didn't use SGU lecture slides. I reread all of my own previous notes from previous terms. Like I said, I had quick notes for literally everything. I did do either physio or boards and beyonds for subject I was lacking in. So how did I find these subjects that I was lacking in? Mainly, I would use question banks to tell me. So I had already done almost all of USMLE, or actually before I got to term 5. So I looked on like the breakdown and I would see what subjects, what topics do I stink at? Is it cardio? Okay, then I'm going to go through, physio, cardio again, or vice, or whatever it was telling me. That's what I was going to watch a video on. And that's what I was going to, put my effort into. I also use, this organ system breakdown that the school gives you, what's going to be on book 1, book 2, book 3. That's kind of how I dictated what questions I was doing. So let's just go to the bottom. So physio, boards and beyond, like I said, subjects I was lacking in. I did do pathoma for subjects I was lacking in. The first 3 chapters are super high yield, mainly for staff, not so much for SGU exams, but for SGU exams, I did like female and male reproductive systems. I was always terrible at that. And I thought he did a really good job. Anything else that you suck at, he's quick and efficient to getting you the highest yield material. And then the bulk of my pre-dedicated or BSCE prep was questions. Like I said, I already done RX, so I just did what the school assigned me, because there's no point in me to redo that question bank. Past test, again, like I said previously, I did 10 to 20 random questions, all topics, once a day, either when I was chilling outside or when I was laying in bed, just kind of watching TV or something. I did those on tutor mode because they weren't like super, intense or anything like that. I'm just kind of seeing topics every day, that was all topics, meaning I'm not just studying for BSCE, that's every topic, that you can select. It's just kind of a random review. So like, instead of doing my Anki reviews, which I'll get to that, I always added these extra questions just to get more questions in, essentially. And boss, I did most of the questions for each topic related to the BSCE book. So let's take BSCE book 1, for example. So I would do all of general principles, heme, I would do all those questions. I would do cardio, respiratory, and renal. I would do all those questions for BSCE 1, or as many as I could get to within reason. Anything I got wrong, I made an Anki card for. And that goes for just about anything. If I did a boards and beyond video and I did questions afterward, and if I got one of those questions wrong, I'm also making an Anki card for that. So anything I got wrong ever, I tried to make an Anki card for. So yeah, use this to your advantage. You can use this BSCE chart the school gives you and then reference the USMLE step 1 content outline. It will give you every topic with what is under that topic, and the school will test you on things within that. They're not going to stray outside of what's in this content outline. Same thing for STEP. I think people don't use this enough. I went through this entire thing. If I didn't know it, I looked it up, and you're damn right, I learned it then. If it was in the outline and I had never seen it, I never heard it, well, I went and I learned it, okay? So use this to your advantage. I mean, it's out there for a reason to help you kind of, figure out what is the most important information for the test that you're going to be taking. So this is just a picture of Anki. So how I did it, this is in the browser mode. So don't panic if you have never seen an image like this here on this side. So this would be, an example of one of the questions that I made. This is one, I got this one wrong. So I would make my closed inclusion. These are all closed inclusion cards. I did not use basic. You can do it however you want, but I prefer the closed inclusions. Whatever I got wrong, so that is what I put in the close. That's what I want to guess, okay? And then just because I always wanted to see the answer that I picked, the answer that I picked plus the right answer, I actually snipped the amboss, like if you expand all the answer options, it will give you an explanation. What you picked will be in red. The correct answer will be in green. And I put that into my missed questions thing every time. So I could always read a little bit about, why I got it wrong or what misled me, kind of to trigger my memory. Now, this I just put in here to show you, like, I'm not perfect. This is from last year. So my new one's a little different too. I really don't keep up with Anki as much as I did previously. This is just my incorrects and high yield for step 1. So this isn't like my entire deck that I was doing. For the Anki in general, I only did micro and farm, plus all the incorrects that I got, because I think micro and farm are really the only true benefit to Anki, because like I said, physiology and some of those other topics are just too hard. You have to have the understanding versus just memorizing something, okay? So this section in the middle, this will actually be, when I was in my dedicated / doing SGU stuff right here. And I very rarely missed a day, you see these 2 days here and there, but I very rarely missed a day during that period for reviewing these. Now, I would always do questions in the morning because that's when I'm the freshest. And I would do these at night, either before or after, either before or after I did those past test questions. I'm not a firm believer in like super strict schedule. I always just kind of went with the flow in the pre-dedicated or my dedicated period. If I needed to sleep until 9 or 10, I slept until 9 and 10. And then I would start whenever I was ready. And then I would go for 8 hours. I would be done. I would do whatever I wanted after that. Okay. If you're a morning person, get your 8 hours in, enjoy the rest of the day. If you're a night person, no big deal. Do whatever you want to do, because this is your time to learn the material you need to learn, okay? Everybody's different. Everybody uses different resources and everybody has a different learning style. So like I said, if this isn't working for you, try and change it up. Try something different. You can go online on YouTube and you can find people who only read first aid, people who did the UWorld first aid, the UFAP. Okay, now I don't think that works for everybody, because so many people do that. Personally, I didn't do that, but so many people do that. And if that was the key to success, everybody would be getting 250 plus, but we don't. And why that's true is because we're all not on the same foundation level. So get your foundation down now in term 5 if it's not there. And when you get to dedicated, all you need to do is hammer questions. So that was something I knew from the beginning. If I had a strong foundation when I got to dedicated, everything would be a review. And not to toot my own horn, I guess, but quite frankly, everything was a review. There are very few things that I had never seen or didn't know. Even on step, I didn't get a question that I'd never seen that I was shocked about. And that just comes from being prepared. Every term I was prepared. Every term I worked hard. Every term I took every exam as a challenge, not as like, oh shit, it's another test. It was more like, oh good, this is a time for me to show that I've worked my butt off and that I know this material. So also try and change, that mentality of, oh, this sucks. I'm not smart. We're all smart. We're all here for a reason. We all can do this. Trust me. I was on academic probation in college. And I get straight A's in medical school, killed this step. So if I can do it, you can do it. So keep that in mind, that, half of the battle is confidence and just believing in yourself, because we all know a lot of this material. So don't give up on yourself, work hard. As always, if anybody has questions, you need some advice, you're looking for tutoring, you can go to Firehouse Med Prep, apply for a tutor. Someone should get back to you. But again, if you have like a question that you're dying to get an answer to, you're really struggling, shoot me a Facebook message, Julie Hansen, Hansen, that's my last name. You can also comment on this video and I'll get back to you. So Hopefully this was helpful. Sorry, I had to be kind of quick. I need to get to studying today too. I'm taking step 2 in a couple weeks. So best of luck to everybody. Bye.